The searing pain of the blade piercing his heart still burned in Qin Fang's phantom memories. He blinked rapidly as the familiar scent of cheap instant noodles replaced the metallic stench of battlefield blood. Looking down at his undamaged chest, he realized the fatal wound from his sister's lover had completely vanished. A loud, obnoxious voice shattered his disorientation, ringing out from the adjacent kitchen doorway. Qin Shui threw her empty designer purse onto the table and demanded his entire monthly salary for a new shopping spree. Qin Fang stared at her pretty, deceitful face, remembering how this exact woman would eventually drain his very lifespan for profit. The sheer entitlement in her voice made his blood boil, but a sudden digital chime in his mind halted his impulse to strike. A glowing, translucent blue clock suddenly materialized in the center of his vision, counting down the seconds. He realized with absolute certainty that he had been reborn exactly 10 minutes before the global descent of the apocalypse game. Without saying a single word, he stood up and walked right past his screaming adopted sister toward the front exit. Qin Shui shrieked in disbelief at his sudden defiance, utterly unaccustomed to her submissive brother ignoring her demands. He slammed the heavy iron door behind him, severing his ties to that parasitic household forever. Walking out into the crowded city streets, he watched the oblivious pedestrians rushing through their mundane daily routines. The digital countdown in his retinas finally hit 0, causing the entire sky to fracture like brittle glass. Crimson lightning surged across the clouds, and massive golden text erupted across the heavens for all mankind to see. The mechanical voice of the world system announced the commencement of the global survival selection process. Suddenly, a searing heat flared in his left eye socket as a familiar ancient artifact awakened ahead of schedule. The Eye of Judgment had actually accompanied him through the river of time, bypassing the system's standard rules. Guided by the hidden interface of the divine artifact, he ignored the standard warrior and mage classes entirely. He reached deep into a hidden rift in the digital prompt, selecting the unlisted, legendary class, Sovereign of Shadows. Dark abyssal energy flooded his veins, instantly rewriting his genetic code and altering his physical appearance. His pitch-black hair rapidly bleached into striking silver-white streaks as the Sovereign class integration completed successfully. A sleek crimson notification screen popped up, confirming his acquisition of the ultimate hidden assassin class. Dark, misty daggers condensed from pure shadow energy directly into his open, waiting palms. The surrounding environment abruptly distorted as the system teleported all local players into the designated tutorial zone. Qin Fang opened his eyes to find himself inside a massive, ruined concrete coliseum filled with thick cobwebs. Dozens of regular citizens who were teleported alongside him began screaming in terror as the gates locked shut. A deep, skittering sound echoed from the dark ceilings, followed by the heavy thud of falling bodies. Huge, monstrous spiders with spiked armor plating crawled out of the shadows, their purple eyes glowing with hunger. While the others fled in chaotic panic, Qin Fang simply tightened the grip on his shadow daggers and stepped forward. His Eye of Judgment flared, instantly displaying the structural weaknesses and health bars of the target arachnids. In a flash of dark mist, he activated his first active skill, disappearing completely from the monster's line of sight. He materialized directly above the creature's head, driving his twin blades deep into its central cluster of eyes. The crypt arachnid screeched in agonizing pain, throwing its massive body wildly across the concrete floor to dislodge him. Qin Fang flipped gracefully backward through the air, landing softly on his feet without taking a single point of damage. The giant beast collapsed with a heavy thud, disintegrating into thousands of golden experience points that flew into his chest. A digital prompt confirmed his rapid progression, pushing his level straight to the top of the local area leaderboard. The other survivors stared at his white-haired figure in absolute awe, treating him like a godlike savior descended from heaven. He ignored their pathetic pleas for protection, turning his back on them to look deeper into the unexplored tunnels of the zone. He knew that the real prize of this tutorial zone lay hidden within the deepest chamber, guarded by a Calamity-class entity. Suddenly, a massive tremor shook the entire cavern as a colossal, armored leg slammed down onto the platform right in front of him. The screen of his Eye of Judgment violently glitched, flashing a blood-red warning text that detailed an impossible boss entity. The blood-red text, flashing across the Eye of Judgment, pulsed like a dying star. Qin Fang stared unblinkingly at the data describing the impossible tutorial boss. In his previous life, this entity had completely wiped out the entire southern sector during the first week. A cold smile played on his lips as he realized his regression gave him the ultimate upper hand. He stepped over the mangled remains of the arachnid monsters he had just slaughtered. His destination was the deep wilderness area just outside the safe zone boundary. The air grew heavy with the stench of ozone and decaying essence as he neared the boundary. According to his future memories, the Shadow Eclipse Stalker spawned precisely at midnight. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath his boots, fracturing the stone paths. From the center of the dark clearing, a massive quadrupedal beast composed of pure obsidian shadows manifested. The Eye of Judgment immediately displayed its hidden weakness right between its shoulder blades. Normal players would attack its head blindly and face immediate annihilation. But Qin Fang was no normal player. He was the ultimate regressor. The stalker roared, unleashing a shockwave of dark energy that shattered the surrounding trees. Moving like a phantom, Qin Fang avoided the blast radius entirely by utilizing the terrain. He reappeared directly above the beast, his twin daggers glowing with a sharp, murderous intent. The blades plunged deep into the creature's core, releasing a fountain of dark, sparkling particles. The monster thrashed violently, attempting to throw the agile assassin from its back. Qin Fang twisted his wrists, activating his hidden class skill to detonate the energy within. A massive explosion of light consumed the beast, reducing it to a pile of glittering loot. System notifications began flooding his vision with unprecedented speed. You have successfully slain the world hidden boss, obtaining the Shard of Evolution. This single item was the key to unlocking game-breaking evolution skills that didn't exist in the standard database. Without hesitation, Qin Fang crushed the shard, absorbing its raw energy directly into his soul. A sudden surge of burning power coursed through his veins, forcing a grimace onto his face. His basic assassin skills began to warp, evolving into the ultimate sovereign variants. His shadow clone skill had now transformed into the absolute sovereign shadow manipulation. While his power multiplied, he knew his future rivals were already making their first moves in the city center. He remembered his traitorous adopted sister, who was likely conspiring with her lover at this very moment. They believed they could climb to the top by stepping on his corpse, but that future was already erased. The Eye of Judgment suddenly pinged, tracking a global leaderboard update. His name sat firmly at the absolute rank 1 position, completely hiding his identity under a shroud of mystery. The entire global player base was throwing itself into a state of absolute panic over this unknown powerhouse. Qin Fang closed the menus, turning his gaze toward the next major objective on his tactical map. A hidden treasury lay dormant beneath the ruins of the old world financial district. Securing that wealth would give him absolute monopoly over the early game economy. He would use every single resource to craft an unbreakable empire that none could ever challenge. As he approached the perimeter of the financial district, his advanced senses picked up signs of life. A group of elite players from a rival corporate guild was already attempting to breach the vault doors. They thought they could claim the treasures destined for the Sovereign King. Qin Fang prepared to unleash his newly evolved skills to purge these intruders from his territory. Suddenly, the ground beneath the vault split open as a giant mechanical hand tore through the floor, grabbing the rival leader. An unscripted ancient guardian entity rose from the abyss, throwing his perfect future meta-knowledge into complete chaos. The massive stone guardian raised its colossal crystalline fist as the abyssal rift cracked wide open underneath Qin Fang. Despite this entity never appearing in his previous timeline, Qin Fang refused to let panic cloud his judgment. The Eye of Judgment flared brightly within his left socket, peeling back the layers of ancient magic shielding the boss. A glowing digital overlay manifested in his vision, revealing a hidden structural flaw near the beast's core. Activating his supreme shadow manipulation, Qin Fang dissolved into a pool of pure liquid darkness. The Guardian's massive fist slammed into the earth, shattering the ground where the young assassin had stood just a millisecond prior. Re-emerging instantly from the shadow cast by the creature's own arm, Qin Fang sprinted up the massive stone limb. He plunged both daggers deep into the glowing runic weak point, unleashing a torrent of chaotic dark energy. The ancient entity bellowed in agony as cracks of brilliant white light spread across its monolithic torso. With a final coordinated burst of shadow strikes, the unscripted boss shattered into thousands of glowing crystalline shards. a shower of high-tier loot rained down onto the stone floor, catching the dim, magical light of the cavern. System notifications flooded Qinfeng's vision, confirming a massive influx of tradable lifespan points. Sweeping his hand forward, he collected every single piece of legendary equipment into his expanding, infinite inventory. This unexpected victory proved that while history had altered, his absolute power remained completely uncontested. Leaving the collapsing dungeon behind, Qinfeng returned to the surface world to manage his growing horde. He opened the global player black market interface, listing low-tier materials at exorbitant lifespan prices to exploit desperate survivors. Within minutes, panicked rich players bought out his stock, transferring decades of valuable life currency directly to him. Lifespan was the ultimate currency in this new world, and he intended to hoard every single second of it. Suddenly, an emergency ping from his map grid flashed red, indicating a massive conflict nearby. The coordination coordinates matched the exact location where a future legendary tactical commander was supposed to die today. Saving this specific ally would provide him with an unmatched strategic shield for the upcoming regional faction wars. Leaping from the rooftop, he melded into the dark shadows of the buildings, moving silently like a phantom. Down in a flooded industrial plaza, a small group of heavily armed player killers had surrounded two battered targets. Zhao Ming, the future commander, stood defensively over his wounded sister, his energy shield flickering on its last reserves. The leader of the player killers stepped forward, laughing as he raised a massive executioner's sword. From the darkness behind them, a chilling whisper echoed through the plaza, causing the executioner to freeze instantly. Qin Fang materialized behind the furthest guard, his twin daggers already crossed at the man's throat. With a seamless flick of his wrists, he sliced through the heavy armor, turning the guard into a burst of red pixels. The remaining player killers panicked, firing their magical rifles blindly into the swirling black fog. Qin Fang danced through the gunfire effortlessly, his movement speed augmented by his Supreme Assassin passive traits. He slid past the second attacker, driving a shadow-infused blade straight up through the player's chestplate. The leader realized he was dealing with a monster and tried to flee, abandoning his remaining men. "Nowhere to run," Qin Fang muttered, activating his Shadowbind skill to anchor the fleeing man's feet. Solid black chains erupted from the wet pavement, wrapping tightly around the leader's legs and slamming him down. Qin Fang walked up to him slowly, the sound of his combat boots echoing in the sudden silence of the courtyard. Without offering a single word of negotiation, he executed the leader, absorbing the man's entire bounty database. Zhao Ming watched the entire slaughter in absolute awe, struggling to comprehend the terrifying strength of this lone assassin. Qin Fang turned toward them, tossing a high-grade legendary healing potion onto the wet ground at their feet. "Heal up, Zhao Ming, because your tactical talents now belong exclusively to me," Qin Fang declared coldly. Before Zhao Ming could even respond, the entire sky above the city suddenly turned a sickening, deep blood red. A massive mechanical roar thundered from the heavens, as a colossal mechanical fortress began warping into reality. The system interface flashed a global emergency warning, announcing the premature arrival of the FICA Heavy Industries Vanguard fleet. This catastrophic event was supposed to happen months later, signaling that his regression had officially accelerated the world's doom. The shattering sky bled deep crimson as the accelerated apocalypse twisted the clouds into a spinning, chaotic vortex directly above the ruined city streets. Looking up at the cosmic disturbance, Qin Fang tightened his grip on his dual daggers, realizing his actions had forced the timeline to mutate far sooner than expected. Instead of fleeing the imminent world doom, he focused his gaze toward the distance where the massive, heavily fortified fortress of FICA Heavy Industries stood. This corrupt faction had spent months hoarding resources and hunting solo players, and it was finally time for them to pay their absolute blood debt. With a sharp wave of his hand, he activated his supreme hidden summoning skill, tearing a massive spatial rift right through the concrete floor. Out from the abyssal darkness crawled a colossal skeletal dragon, its ancient bone wings spreading wide to block out the remaining crimson light. The dragon let out a silent, soul-crushing roar that sent violent shockwaves through the surrounding skyscrapers, shattering every glass window for miles. Leaping effortlessly onto the crown of the massive beast, Qin Fang stood tall between its horns, his cloak billowing violently in the wind. He pointed one dagger forward, signaling the apex predator to dive directly toward the heart of the corporate hideout. Inside the FICA Heavy Industries hideout, klaxons wailed in frantic rhythms as radar screens flashed with massive, unprecedented energy warnings. Elite corporate enforcers scrambled across the courtyard, desperately loading heavy anti-aircraft mana rails to target the incoming threat. The defensive turrets hummed to life, unleashing a massive barrage of glowing blue plasma beams directly into the dark sky. With a cold sneer, Fang commanded his mount to twist sideways, effortlessly evading the searing energy beams with supernatural agility. The dragon retaliated by opening its massive maw, gathering a sphere of pure, concentrated green ruin in the back of its throat. A continuous stream of apocalyptic plague fire erupted from the beast, instantly melting the outer titanium walls of the compound into bubbling slag. High-ranking commanders watched from the central tower in absolute horror as their expensive, state-of-the-art defenses turned to ash in mere seconds. The skeletal dragon slammed violently into the center of the courtyard, creating a massive crater that sent heavy concrete slabs flying outward. Walking slowly down the dragon's snout, Fang stepped onto the scorched earth, his white hair swaying as his eye of judgment flared to life. A phalanx of heavily armed enforcers quickly surrounded him, their automated shields forming a continuous wall of red energy barriers. Fang merely chuckled softly, his voice carrying a chilling edge that froze the blood of every soldier standing in his presence. In a sudden flash of shadow, he completely vanished from their sight, leaving behind only a faint trail of dark, shimmering particles. Before the guards could even react, Fang reappeared directly behind their defensive line, his daggers cutting clean through their heavy exo armor. He spun fluidly through the crowded ranks like a phantom, each precise strike draining the lifespan of his enemies to fuel his own dark reserves. The remaining soldiers dropped their weapons and fled in pure panic, entirely broken by the absolute impossibility of his speed. Ignoring the fleeing weaklings, Fang raised his glowing eye toward the massive reinforced glass doors of the main laboratory facility. He walked forward with measured steps, his boots tapping softly against the metal flooring as the heavy doors spontaneously shattered under his intense aura. Inside the inner sanctum, he found the supreme leader of FICA hiding behind a massive computational terminal, surrounded by stolen divine artifacts. The leader pointed a trembling finger at Fang, offering mountains of legendary gear and millions of gold coins in exchange for his life. "In my past life, you helped fund the betrayal that tore away my future," Fang spoke, his voice echoing with absolute finality. Without waiting for another useless plea, he lunged forward, executing a flawless shadow strike that cleanly severed the leader's lifelines. A massive cloud of glowing golden lifespan points erupted from the fallen leader, rushing directly into Fang's chest to maximize his character level. The Eye of Judgment flashed fiercely as an array of glowing golden system notifications materialized in the air, confirming his ascension to global rank 1. Turning around, he systematically claimed every single hidden artifact in the vault, completely stripping the corrupt faction of its stolen legacy. He walked back out to the open courtyard, where the skeletal dragon waited patiently, amidst the quiet ruins of the defeated corporate empire. With a light jump, he returned to his sovereign throne upon the dragon's back, feeling the ultimate closure of erasing his past enemies one by one. The apocalyptic game world was still collapsing, but now he held absolute power, infinite lifespan, and the supreme strength to forge a new order. The massive dragon spread its colossal wings one final time, ready to carry the world's strongest player toward his new sovereign kingdom. No one left could challenge his absolute rule, and no betrayal would ever touch his shadow again in this fully conquered timeline. His path of sovereign retribution was finally complete, leaving behind an immortal legend that the apocalyptic Earth would never forget. Standing at the apex of all existence, the Supreme Shadow Sovereign looked out over his new domain, ready to rule over eternity.